So yeah, exciting times for me. So I'm going to be exhibiting some work that I shot 10 years ago at the Saatchi Gallery in like a week. And I basically got to print the work tomorrow in London and take it straight to the gallery. The work is from the book, The Unseen, an Atlas of Infrared Plates. It's basically all kind of vein photography. That's where I was using infrared to basically photograph through people's skin as you do. And yeah, now here's the fun part. Getting the print sorted. So I'm going to take you through a little step-by-step guide of how I'm getting print ready. And if you haven't done this before, man, hopefully this should help you if you're ever exhibiting yourself. Step one is choosing the edit. Like, you're going to have to choose what you're going to exhibit. Now, it's easy for me. The curators have picked 3 photographs, so I don't have to worry about that too much. So I know kind of what photographs to print. Normally you need to make some sort of decisions about that. It's been taken care of this time. Now, next up is editing the photographs for print. Now, if you're shooting digital, a lot of time people are using kind of presets and profiles, just trying to move away from that standard kind of visual aesthetic you get off camera. And that's fine, but I'm shooting on film and I'm trying to emulate that aesthetic as clearly as I can from those transparencies that I got after I kind of clear them up. Because the other problem with this one is that my transparencies are kind of wrecked. I'm shooting on repurposed military surveillance film that's dead stock, like way out of date, even when I was shooting it back in 2010. So there's a fair amount of anomalies and weird little specks and dots and lines and color cast and all kinds of nonsense that I'm trying to clear up. So yeah, it's quite a lot of work to do on these transparencies to sort them out. And I do that in Photoshop. So in Photoshop, I'll drop them in, I'll go through them, and I'll sort of take care of it that way. Color balance is really important when kind of exhibiting or doing a book, because people are going to see photographs side by side. And for some projects, it's not going to be so noticeable, but like if you did like I did, like a studio shoot, you want to make sure that all of the color casts have a similar tone. So this is Photoshop, and I'm basically dragging out both files so they can be side by side, so I can compare the color casts. And using the curves tool, I can manipulate one while keeping an eye on the other until the color casts match. So one thing you have to consider, obviously when exhibiting the work, is like the size of the prints, and often this might be tied to an edition size, like the actual size of the print on the number of the edition, right? I don't have to worry about that too much because the curators gave me a choice, either smaller frame prints, like kind of life size, or as big as I could go, and that's really cool. So I just chose to go really big and hang them up. That's about 40 by 50 inches because I shot on that 6.7 Kodak Aerochrome medium format film. Part of it will have to be resized, but I'll show you that in a minute. Now, one fun part about printing is test strips. Now, when I used to print in the darkroom, it's basically a way of like using little amount of paper as possible till you get the sort of settings in the darkroom on your enlarger correct. Not wasting loads of paper, like doing it wrong, too dark, doing it wrong, colors are wrong, just burning through paper. Instead, you make these little strips. Well, you know what? You can do the same thing when printing digitally, right? If I'm banging out these like 40 by 50 inch prints, it's going to cost a shitload of money, right? Whereas what I can do is, and what I've done here, and I can show you, is I've basically got a bunch of test strips. And not only that, I've printed them on different paper stock. Yeah. So obviously part of exhibiting, let's get rid of this cup of tea, shall we, before something happens. Part of exhibiting is actually thinking about kind of what kind of paper and what kind of finish. It's a bit curly-whirly. Hopefully you can see that. Can you see that? Is that coming through? So this top sheet, I can tell you, is glossy. These two are really glossy. It's a glossy finish. The blues look quite good. I thought the colours were quite good on that. Yeah, that was the thigh, is super glossy. Next up is what I normally print on, which is this kind of luster, like kind of matte finish. So again, you're seeing that there, looks kind of cool, right? But you know what? I saw these ones, and I would never normally print on this paper, okay? I'm like a documentary photographer, but like, wow. This is metallic paper, and wow, it looks space age, doesn't it? You know, I talked in a previous video about the aesthetic of these kind of nudes, looks kind of a bit sci-fi, and yeah, wow, it's something else. So I did the test strips, and also you might be thinking, Ed, they're really big. Well, yeah, they're really big because that's the actual size, like it's going to be printed. Like that's a strip across the 40 by 50 inch print. And what I've done is just printed another one, another angle, just trying to get a bit of blue in. And the astute of you might have noticed I've actually rotated the image to sort of get it going across the whole image rather than just sort of straight down. So yeah, there we go. Now, once I was happy with the test strips, I thought I want to check that these photographs all are going to look kind of uniform in their color cast and tone, you know, just work together. And of course, right, I'm not going to print out 3 40 by 50 inch prints. I'd love to be in the situation I can just pay to do that, but I'm not. But what I can do is I printed out a bunch of 10 by 8s. So yeah, what you're looking at now is one of the photos as an 8 by 10, but kind of with the colors how I liked it. Now, again, just to point out, I hadn't properly done post-production on this. The turnaround was so tight for this exhibition. So yeah, you know, you'll see lots of dots and little bits and other lines and whatever. But overall, I was just trying to sort the colours out. Next up was this guy here. So again, I was sort of assessing it, kind of looking at the colours here, and I thought that's kind of working. I like the blue. And again, it's that metallic finish. Again, it's like, oh, isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? Imagine that massive on a wall in a big gallery. Pretty cool. Yeah, so there we go. And then the final photograph here is of the thigh. And you know what? I'm really glad I printed these little tests, because I was looking at them and I felt this is kind of more green. This is a bit like greeny blue, a bit more magenta, isn't it? I don't know if that's coming through on this camera up here, but like for me, that thigh is just too warm, too magenta. So in Photoshop, I've knocked out a bit of that magenta. And I did that by creating a curve layer and a hue and saturation layer. So on the curves here, sort of sorting out that red, reducing that red a bit, and then going to the other layer, the green layer here, just having a slight tweak with that, and the same again going to the blue layer and trying to warm it up a little bit. Just cool it down actually, there we go. And you see the difference? Because ultimately, this will be exhibited in what's called a triptych. So it'll be 3 photos on the wall, and yeah, they'll be massive. So yeah, pretty exciting stuff. Exhibiting, super fun, super exciting. And one thing that's really cool for me is, look man, like the book was called The Unseen, yeah? And like no one really saw this kind of work for 10 years. For a minute it looked like some curators reached out to me like before the pandemic and they were gonna maybe show it, and then it didn't happen. So yeah, really thrilled that this is happening now. So let that be a lesson, right? You might not feel you're making progress. You might not feel people like looking at your work. Well, look, photography is amazing because the photos don't go out of date. They're still good. You're still good. Just wait and hold on. And maybe at some point, something will happen. So there we go. So stay positive. And with the magic of editing, here I am. I'm looking at the prints that I made and using my little 10 by 8 prints to just check them and see how they're working out. And yes, the tube, the vein, Saatchi Gallery, here I come.